Improve. The purpose of this video is to walk you through the data collection process for this study. As you may know, Improve is hosted in REDCap, a platform designed for building datasets that houses data securely. Our access is provided by Lawson's Health Research Institute. Once you and your team are granted access to REDCap, you will see the label Improve under the My Projects tab. Click on it and you will be directed to the site that you have in your screen right now. To start entering data, you will need to create a new record. Click here on this green button to start doing so. The green button will assign a new record automatically, as you see. In this case, the number is 26. In your case, the number will look a little bit different. We kindly ask you to take note of this record ID and associate it to a patient identifier in your master list. Just as a reminder, the master list should not be shared with main site, with us, or with any other site in Improve. It's just for your records. Also take note that you can always come back to one record once the data is entered to either complete it or change the answer provided. All you have to do is click on Select Record, choose the record you want to change, and edit it. And that's it. As you can see, Improve gathers data in 4 different instruments: patient information, cerebrovascular event and baseline assessments, PFO characteristics, investigations after PFO closure. To start your data collection process, you just click on the circle assigned to each one of these instruments and you start. In our first instrument, patient information, you will need to record the date of birth of the patient, or if not known, the age of the patient at the time of the event, height and weight in centimeters and kilograms, and sex. Please take into account that we are asking about sex with which the patient was born and no gender. We will have to answer some questions about risk factors known before the qualifying event. And some questions about comorbidities known before the qualifying event. Please answer these questions taking into account the medical records of the patients. When some of these questions is not known, just click unknown. If not, you can choose yes or no. The next question is going to be about the medications the patient was taking before the event. And finally, one thing that you have to take into account is for each instrument, you will see this question at the end of it. It allows you to select what kind of level of completeness you can assign to the instrument. If all the questions were answered taking into account the data that is available at your site, you can choose complete. This will mark the instrument as green, and that would let us know here at London, Ontario, that we are ready to review the information that you entered. If you choose incomplete, that will paint the instrument red. That is assigned for your team members that more information has to be entered inside of this instrument. And finally, if you choose unverified, that will paint the instrument yellow, and that is assigned for your team members to review the data already entered and contrast it with the patient's records. One thing to take into account is that as soon as you are entering data, in the very first moment in which you start entering data, please, you have to save your records. You do so by clicking either of these buttons, whichever is the same thing. The reason for this is because if you have a team composed by 2 or more people, it could happen that 2 or more people are entering data at the same time. And if that happens, the 2 of them will be assigned the same record ID at the same time, and the system will assign the record to whichever saves it first. So the other person will be thinking that he's entering data in one record, in this case 26, when actually he had been assigned automatically record 27. Okay. The second instrument collects data about the cerebrovascular event. Again, enter the date of the event, which is not necessarily the same date in which the patient was seen because of this event, and select the type of qualifying event. Please note that with your choice, different sets of questions will open. You can always, before you start collecting data, toy a little bit with the instruments to know which questions you're going to answer. So basically, we're going to ask you some details about the event. At the end of these questions, we're going to ask you if the PFO was the cause of the stroke or the TIA. If it's yes, you can move forward. If it's no or unknown, you have to give us another explanation of why the event happened. Before that, we're going to ask you about the baseline investigations done for this event. Again, note that with each answer, more questions will open. We will ask you, in the case of echocardiogram, we are going to ask you to provide us with this data. We hopefully expect all the fields to be completed, but we know that in most centers, not of all this data is available, so please complete whichever you have and leave the others blank. If you mark the instruments green, we will understand that this is all there is available at your site. Again, for the others, just simple questions will be answered, like number of recordings, dates, etc. We are going to ask you about these blood work values, troponin, BNP, and creatinine. For each of them, we're going to ask you not only the value, the number, but also the units in which your site measures this value. Once you finish, you mark it as you wish, and you exit. Then we're going to ask you about the PFO itself. We're going to ask you the date of the diagnosis and how it was diagnosed. Note that you can choose as many as you can here. We're going to ask you about the size, the dynamics, and if other associated findings were found. Again, please answer with whatever data you have available at your site. If that data is not available at your site, just leave it blank. And if you mark the instrument green, we will understand that whatever is there is all you have. And finally, we will ask you what was the medical treatment after the diagnosis of the PFO. For some of them, that's it. But for some of them, we will ask you further questions. And at the end, we are going to ask you if other medications are prescribed, if the PFO was the cause of the prescription. If not, please complete this with the cause of the prescription, preferably in English. At the end of this, we are going to ask you if the PFO was closed. If that is the case, if that is not the case, just click no and move forward to answer questions about the follow-up. But if that is the case, we will ask you when, with what occluder, what size of the occluder was it, and if any complications arise. Again, you mark it as you wish. And in the last one, if you answer yes to PFO closure, we are going to ask you about the investigations done after the PFO closure. As you can see, we are going to ask you about whether an echocardiogram was done within the first week. You can answer no. And then we're going to ask you if an echocardiogram was done anytime after the closure, not necessarily 1 week after. If you mark yes, you will have space. You will have space to complete 3 echocardiograms if you want. And again, we're going to ask you about troponin and BNP. If you didn't answer yes to PFO closure, you will be directed directly to this part. This records information about the follow-up. So please enter the date in which the patient was seen for the last time. Not necessarily by you or by a neurologist, but by whichever physician that is relevantly looking after the patient because of the event or the PFO. And we're going to ask you about some outcomes that the patient may have. If the patient died during the follow-up period, we are going to ask you why and the date of death. And that will be it. Please note that the process of entering data to improve is quite dynamic. You can start completing the records for any patient at any time and then mark no because the patient didn't have a PFO closure. But then when the patient is seen again and you realize that the patient had a PFO closure, then you can mark yes, and then you will come back and complete these questions anytime, every time the patient is seen. So please take note of which patients are seen frequently by you or by any other team, and please complete this instrument, the last one, anytime you see again the patient. So you have to update the information every time. Please take note of all the questions that may arise by watching this video and send them to us at hblab@lhsc.on.ca so we can answer them. And once all your questions have been answered, we will activate your site. Thank you very much.